guys, and welcome back to my channel. What do I do for a job? How old are you? Where are you from? Actually a really controversial thing. So today's video is completely different than normal, and I finally got around to answering all the questions that you guys have asked me. I've been trying to film this for the last 2 weeks and I finally found some time. So I'm actually a super private person, so I'm going to be answering some questions that I haven't answered before. So yeah, keep watching. Okay, let's go. Number one. This is actually a really controversial thing in mountain bike world, and I don't really know why. And it's, well, the question is, what do you think of e-bikes? And I know there's this whole kind of meme on e-bikes, but actually I think they're really cool, and until you've been on one, you probably don't understand. E-bikes are actually so much fun, and I think they definitely have their place at certain places. For example, places that might not have an uplift, but the walk up's like 10 minutes long, you're gonna want an e-bike. Like, that's so handy. I personally don't have one, and I think it's because I was offered an e-bike, but I didn't want that as like my main bike. Completely understand why people love them. So this is also a really popular question that I had, which was, how long have you been riding for? And I've done a Q&A I think a couple of years ago now, when I actually first started my YouTube channel. And I started my YouTube channel 3 years ago, and that's basically when I started mountain biking. Mountain biking isn't the only biking, so although I started mountain biking 3 years ago and I started my like YouTube and channels, I actually, when I was a lot younger, so I would say about high school age, I basically got really into like race BMX, and I lived really close to a BMX pump track, and I would go there every single day after school, on the weekends when they had races as well, and I just absolutely loved it. And if I wasn't there, I was in my garden like fixing bikes up, you know, putting new brake pads on and my chain, and thinking like I was an absolute mechanic. So I picked up a bike again through, I think it was the second lockdown. Have you ever entered any downhill races? Again, really common question. I've never entered any downhill races. So I've done a few when I was doing BMXing, and then I actually fell off and I really hurt my ankle, and I think it kind of clicked in my head like, oh, I could get really injured here. But actually I would love to race again. Yeah, 2024, who knows? So although this isn't a question, it's please do more gym content. And for those that don't know, my Instagram was originally a fitness account. So I started a fitness account from 2014, and I completely changed my content, I would say 3 years ago, when I started mountain biking again. And back then it was really cool, and it was a lot easier for your fitness content to go viral back then, and that's what happened to me. And I also used to work at like a few like fitness events and things like that, so my social media just got really huge of basically posting gym content. And if you actually scroll really far back down my Instagram, you will see, but a lot of it's not on there anymore. So yeah, I would absolutely love to post gym content again. And at the moment it's really hard for me to film, because I'll kind of go and I don't have someone to film for me and kind of setting it up, you know, it doesn't, in my opinion anymore, like it doesn't look great to me, so I want it to look all amazing. So I've actually lost track of questions. I think this is 6. What's the biggest gap you've ever jumped? This is a good question, because I don't actually know, so I'm really gonna have to think. Because it's different, right? You got the height and then you got the length. But I prefer long and low gaps, definitely. And a lot of people prefer kicky gaps, but I don't. So long and low, I think there's one at Chicksands, which is at least 20 foot long. And I did that. There's also one at Twisted Oaks on the line called, I think it's Steezy, and it's the first road gap. That actually might be 20 foot as well, I'm not sure, but probably them, like just from what I can think of. So yeah, they're both long and low gaps as well, so yeah. So I actually just remembered one whilst I was editing this, and it's the Gorton Gravity end jump. That's definitely the biggest gap I've ever hit. So there's actually a really good question here. So this one is, someone basically is getting a lot of hand pain and hand pump from their grips, and sometimes that might be caused from grips that are maybe too big or too small, or like maybe they're worn. So I personally, when I go to bike parks, I get, you know, it's a lot of vibration through the ground, and I find it's really important to have grips that kind of soak that up. and basically therefore it's going to reduce your arm pump. And I have the ODI Reflex grip, which reduce trail vibration and reduce arm pump as well, so they're ideal, so I definitely recommend them. Since having them, I don't get any hand pump at all, so yeah, check them out. Also, a little tip for hand pump, you can actually, you know, warm your wrists up before you ride, but when you're going down a trail, you normally get an arm pump because you're gripping on so hard, and obviously the brakes. And maybe what you need to do is see if your brake lever is adjusted right, because it might be too far out and you might be stretching your fingers too far. So see what the reach is on your brakes. That's also a good one too. Do you enjoy winter riding? So I do. The only thing I don't enjoy is the cold, and I really struggle with cold hands and feet. So, you know, getting proper shoes and socks is really important for me, and gloves. But I actually really enjoy winter riding. I think it's, you know, it tests you and it makes you a better rider personally. And obviously in the UK you get so much rain and not much snow. I've never really ridden in snow. I've like ridden in kind of like icy conditions, but wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, because it gets so wet in the UK, I think it definitely makes you a better rider, especially, you know, when it does rain anywhere else. It gives you kind of that advantage. Like, you see a lot of downhill races that are from the UK. As soon as the weather turns bad, they always tend to go really high up because they're so used to riding in those conditions. So someone asked me how I'm getting on with my new bike. So in January, I got my first ever sponsored bike, and I was so excited for it. So I have a G180 RS, a white G180 RS, and I absolutely love it. When I first got it, it was a full 29er. And a couple of months later I actually mulleted it. It's got a flip switch, so it can be a mullet if you want it to be, but I kept my 29er wheel in case, because actually I really got on with the full 29er, and a lot of people said that I wouldn't. A lot of people said that, you know, I'd buzzed my back wheel, and I never actually did with the full 29er. The only thing I would say is with the full 29er, the only thing I found hard was to style things out. So I couldn't, not that I can whip great anyway, but I couldn't add a little bit of steez on jumps because I found it hard. I actually, before I did mullet it, I managed to get a bit of movement, but as soon as I put the 27.5 on the back, it felt so much better. But yeah, having that bike was a game changer. So my old bike, which was a Commissar Supreme free ride, and I actually love the bike because that was my first ever full suspension bike. But as soon as I went to my G180, I was like, game changer. It just gave me so much more confidence, and I think because it was my first ever bike sponsor, but also my first ever brand new bike, I was like really keen to kind of push it and try new things on it, because it just made me really excited to try new things and gave me like complete confidence that I can trust this bike, giving me so much mental and obviously physical progression. So yeah, I love it. So my bike is a medium. It's a medium frame, and again, I thought that might be an issue, but actually it's fine. I definitely need to cut my bars down. I think originally I used to run my bars at 780 and now they're 770, but I think I might need to cut them down to 760 because they're quite wide, and I've only just now started to kind of realise that. I've been told it many times, but I don't like change, okay? So another good question is, have I only ever ridden full suspension bikes? So actually no, I haven't. As you would have known by now, I was BMX when I was younger, but when I got back into bikes in 2019 or 20, I actually went from a BMX because that's what I knew. So I was literally riding a BMX down mountain bike trails, which was really scary. But it was what I was used to, so one break. And then I had that for like a few months, and then kind of decide if I wanted to get into bikes before investing, which I recommend people should do. And I 100% wanted to keep biking, so I got a Mafia jump bike, and that was a little bit of a game changer again because it allowed me to kind of push myself a bit more, hit gaps and drops and things like that. And again, I was comfortable with a hardtail. I had no idea what a full suspension felt like, you know. So I had that for 5 more months, and then I got to a point where I was like, Harry got a full suspension bike and I loved it. I was like, wow, you can do so, it looks like you can do so much more on it. It feels really cool. And I definitely wanted a full suspension, but I couldn't afford it at the time, so we were kind of looking for a bike that wasn't like too expensive, and again, just to make sure I was 100% wanting to go back into bikes again. And then we found this bike, you know, my little yellow submarine, my Commissar Supreme, on Facebook Marketplace, and it was actually, I think it was up for like £900, and we were like, yes, let's get it. And we managed to get it a little bit down in price, and I got it, and I was like, wow. I actually love this bike. It was so cool. I actually wish I could have kept it, but I had no room to keep it. So we took this bike to the trails, and I went down the trails, and I was like, what? How does this work? Basically, it was set up very wrong, and it was a coil suspension. So I think it was like a £400 coil, but basically it was locked out, but we couldn't work out how to, it was so tightly wound up, we couldn't undo it. But then one day Harry managed to undo it, and then it started to actually have movement to it, and I was like, wow, this is so much better. But at first, going from a hardtail to a full suspension bike, and that bike was 180mm travel. Although it was a small bike, it had so much travel. It was a 26er as well, but that's because I was used to a jump bike, so I didn't want to go crazy different. I think it took me roughly 2 months to actually like it, and then after I got the hang of how to use, you know, the rear suspension, it was again another game changer, and my journey just kept like progressing. So there is a couple of personal questions, so I might as well just do them all in one. So first one being, what do I do for a job? Is this my full-time job? YouTube. So I don't do YouTube full-time. It is something I would love to do full-time, but at the moment it's not. So my day job is, well, actually I do a few things. So I'm actually a personal trainer, so I'll have my own clients and I train them in the gym, a few online clients as well. And then I also do a lot of marketing and content creation for a few companies, and that's kind of like easy to do from home kind of work. So I kind of do a few things. Also, as you guys know, do YouTube, and I can only really film YouTube videos on the weekends, and especially through the winter with the evenings, you know, becoming shorter and darker. I would absolutely love YouTube to be my full-time job. That would be crazy, just traveling here and there and filming videos, and maybe one day in the future, and let's hope so. Content creation and personal training is like my main jobs. Next personal question is, how old are you and where are you from? So I am 25 years old and I'm originally from London. That's all I'm gonna say. I think this will be the last question now, which is, do you have any plans to ride abroad this year? So yes, we do. Me and Harry are going somewhere, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys, which will be very, very soon. It's gonna be my first riding holiday, well, Harry's as well actually. Both of us have never ridden our bikes abroad. That will be really, really exciting, and that's happening this year. And then next year we've also got a few plans with our friends as well abroad, so yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. But you guys will see all of that very soon, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully I asked some of your questions. I'm gonna do another one probably soon as well, so look out for that on my stories. But yeah, if you do have any more questions, pop it down in the comments, and then in the next video I'll answer your question. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.